Tom Sullivan.
And thanks for joining us. Here's what I have at the top of the stack. Republicans, they're beginning to announce who is running for president. We all know the established candidates' names, but are you happy with the list so far? What about the lesser-known ones? Anybody there that may be, coming along? How well do you know them? That's where we come in. What we're going to do over the next several weeks is introduce you to some of the people who are in the race, and we start today with a man who does, in fact, need an introduction. Former governor of New Mexico, Gary Johnson. He was the earliest to announce his run for presidency. He's two-term governor, best known for lowering the state of New Mexico's taxes. But his strong libertarian views, including his desire to legalize marijuana, makes him a controversial candidate. Joining us now from New Mexico is Governor Gary Johnson. And Governor, thank you so much. This is really if you don't mind, kind of a get-to-know-you session, if you will. So where do you want to start? Because I know you're a strong fiscal conservative, but people say that on the social side you're a liberal. Is that a fair description of you?
Well, I think 60% of Americans describe themselves as fiscally conservative and socially liberal, and maybe liberal in the classical sense. I made a difference as governor of New Mexico. And Tom, my background is I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I started a one-man handyman business in Albuquerque in 1974, and in 1994 actually had 1,000 employees, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, pipe fitting. So I really do understand what it is to go from a one-man shop to 1,000 people, and that's a credit to 1,000 people. I know what that's all about. And having gotten into politics in New Mexico, in a state that was 2-to-1 Democrat, I got elected. And I got reelected by arguably being fiscally the most conservative governor in the country. And I base that on the fact that I vetoed 750 bills while I was governor of New Mexico and had thousands of line item vetoes. Only 2 of them were overturned, so it really made a difference when it came to billions of dollars worth of spending. And it really made a difference when it came to government's role in our lives, and I'm a small government guy.
All right, so let's go back to when you ran for governor, because like you said, your background is a businessman. A lot of people, you've heard it, I've heard it for many, many years, is this business about we want somebody who's not really a politician, we want somebody who's met a payroll. But you did get into politics. You ran for governor. Why? What drove you to go from the private sector into the public sector?
Well, I really believe that politics, my entire life, I believe that politics would be a high calling. The notion that you could actually get involved in public policy and make a difference in people's lives. Now, I realize that difference in people's lives is really debatable, but I'm going to argue that I really made a big difference in the state of New Mexico. Not one single penny of tax went up over an 8-year period. We reformed Medicaid in the state of New Mexico, privatized a number of state functions, which meant better services, better products at lower prices, 4-lane, 500 miles of 4-lane highway. Took on the issues that should have been taken on. Everything for me as governor of New Mexico was a cost-benefit analysis. What are we spending our money on, and what are we getting for the money that we're spending? You talked earlier about legalizing drugs. I advocate legalizing marijuana. When it comes to all the other drugs, I would advocate harm reduction strategies, which in a nutshell is looking at the drug problem first as a health issue rather than a criminal justice issue. Tom, would it surprise you that China, with 4 times the population as that of the United States, has less individuals incarcerated than the United States? We've got the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world, and that's because half of what we spend, half of all our resources that we spend on law enforcement, the courts, and the prisons is drug-related. And to what end? Well, we now have 2.3 million people behind bars in this country that, but for our drug laws, a majority of them wouldn't be there.
All right. Let's keep moving. We could spend all day on just that topic alone, but I want to go through a bunch of other things. You mentioned health. Obamacare. What's your take on Obamacare?
Well, I think that we should repeal President Obama's health care plan simply because it's not affordable. But I would like to point out, or I'd like to offer up Republicans a suggestion that they repeal the prescription health care benefit that they passed when they controlled both houses of Congress and the presidency and ran up record deficits. I think both parties share in the fact that we are bankrupt today. And the biggest issue facing us today is the fact that there is no repaying $14 trillion in debt, given a $1.65 trillion deficit this year, last year, the year before, years going forward. We've got to fix this, and we've got to fix this now. I think we're on the verge of a financial collapse.
And the fix is, everybody says you can't fix this without touching Social Security, Medicare, some of these benefits that have been promised. And yet people largely in the polls say, but don't touch my Social Security or Medicare. So how do you weigh in on those two?
Social Security it's not about cutting Social Security. It's a system that needs to take in more money than what it pays out. So without raising taxes, you can do that when it comes to Social Security. But Medicaid and Medicare, Medicare is really the 800-pound gorilla. It's got to be, the costs have to be reduced. Same with Medicaid. Same with defense spending. So really the conversation needs to start out with defense, Medicaid, and Medicare.
Yet people say don't touch it. So how do you, I mean, it's a political, it's a
of course, if we don't touch it, I'm going to argue that we're going to be left with nothing. We're at a crossroads here, and that crossroads is a monetary collapse in this country. The fact that we're not borrowing this money that we're spending, we're borrowing it and we're printing it. We're printing it right out of thin air. And by doing this, we're going to all be left, we're left right now with a much devalued dollar over what it was even a year ago, and this continues, and this is how it's going to manifest itself. Right. Will we still get our Social Security checks? Yes, it's just that they won't buy a darn thing.
Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico, thank you so much. We'd love to have you back, because I'm sure there's many, many more conversations still to come on all the topics facing our nation. Governor, thank you so much.
Tom, thank you very much.
You bet. Still to come on the big TV show this hour.